For a long time, humanity believed that reality was something solid, objective, and completely independent of perception. The universe was imagined as a vast machine built from separate parts, each obeying fixed laws, moving through empty space according to predictable rules. In this view, consciousness was a byproduct, an accidental outcome of matter, secondary to the physical world it observed. Yet, as science refined its instruments and spirituality refined its inquiry, this certainty began to fracture in unexpected ways. Quantum physics emerged not as a spiritual doctrine, but as a precise mathematical response to experimental results that refused to fit classical explanations. At the smallest measurable scales, matter stopped behaving like matter. Particles did not occupy defined positions. They did not follow clear trajectories. Instead, they appeared as probability distributions, mathematical descriptions of potential outcomes, rather than solid objects existing independently in space. Reality, at its foundation, revealed itself as something fluid, indeterminate, and relational. What startled physicists was not only the strangeness of this behavior, but the role of observation itself. Measurement was no longer passive. The act of observing influenced what was observed. Until interaction occurred, systems existed in superposition, not here or there, not this or that, but as overlapping possibilities. Only when measured did one outcome emerge from the field of potential. This did not imply mysticism, yet it quietly dismantled the idea of a universe that exists fully formed without participation. Spiritual traditions, arriving from a completely different direction, had long questioned the assumption of an independent, solid reality. Through introspection rather than instrumentation, they pointed to awareness as the primary fact of experience. Everything known, sensations, thoughts, emotions, even the sense of self, appears within consciousness. Awareness itself, however, is never observed as an object. It is the condition that allows observation to occur at all. Here, the parallels become impossible to ignore. Quantum physics suggests that reality is not made of things, but of interactions. Spiritual inquiry suggests that experience is not made of objects, but of appearances within awareness. Both dissolve the notion of fixed entities existing in isolation. Both reveal a world that is relational, dynamic, and deeply interconnected. Stillness plays a crucial role in this understanding. In spirituality, stillness is not inactivity, but clarity, the absence of unnecessary interference. When mental noise subsides, perception becomes direct. In physics, reducing interference allows systems to reveal their fundamental behavior. Noise obscures patterns. Stillness reveals structure. In both domains, simplicity uncovers depth. The concept of the observer sits at the center of this convergence. In quantum experiments, the observer does not need to be conscious in a human sense. Interaction itself collapses possibilities into outcomes, yet consciousness remains the only place where results are known, interpreted, and given meaning. Without awareness, data has no context. Without perception, reality has no story. This does not mean consciousness creates the universe, nor that thought controls matter. Such claims oversimplify and distort both science and spirituality. Instead, it suggests something more subtle and far more profound. Reality and awareness are not separate domains. They arise together, defining one another in an ongoing process. The universe is not a finished product. It is an unfolding relationship. Time, once considered absolute, also dissolves under closer examination. In physics, Time behaves differently depending on motion and gravity. At quantum scales, the direction of time becomes ambiguous. In spirituality, time is experienced as a mental construct, arising from memory and anticipation, both of which occur in the present moment. The past is recalled now. The future is imagined now. The experience itself always happens here. When these insights are integrated, the sense of a fixed, enduring self becomes questionable. What we call I appears as a continuity of memory, sensation, and thought, all changing moment by moment. Yet awareness itself remains unchanged. It witnesses childhood and adulthood, joy and loss, clarity and confusion, without acquiring their characteristics. It is not improved by pleasure nor damaged by pain. Quantum fields offer a powerful metaphor here. Particles are excitations of underlying fields, not independent entities. Likewise, personal identity can be seen as an excitation within awareness, a functional pattern, not a fundamental substance. Useful, necessary, but not ultimate. When this is seen clearly, attachment softens without effort. This softening does not lead to withdrawal from life. It leads to deeper engagement. When experience is no longer filtered through rigid identity, perception becomes more vivid. Compassion arises naturally, not as an ethical command, but as recognition. What appears as other is not truly separate. Difference exists, but isolation dissolves. Uncertainty, which modern culture often treats as a problem to eliminate, becomes a space of openness. Quantum theory embraces uncertainty as intrinsic. Spiritual wisdom recognizes not knowing as intelligence rather than failure. Reality is not a puzzle to be solved once and for all. It is a process to be lived attentively. Meaning, then, is not something hidden in the future or stored in explanations. It arises from presence itself. When awareness is clear, even ordinary moments carry depth. Breath, sound, light, and silence reveal themselves as expressions of the same underlying field. Nothing is excluded. Nothing is trivial. The convergence of physics and spirituality does not give us final answers. It gives us better questions. Questions that do not seek closure, but clarity. Questions that turn attention back toward the one asking them. In this turning, something relaxes. The constant urge to define reality gives way to direct experience. At the deepest level, both science and spirituality arrive at humility. The universe exceeds our models. Awareness exceeds our descriptions. What remains is not confusion, but wonder. A quiet recognition that existence is richer, subtler, and more intimate than we were taught to believe. And beneath every thought about reality, beneath every attempt to understand it, there is something silently present, a stillness that does not belong to time, an awareness that does not move with change. It does not announce itself. It does not demand belief. It simply remains. Still, within.